Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are diving into some sources that give us a really a front row seat to a fascinating journey.
Right. We're looking at excerpts from a YouTube video featuring comedian Gabriel Iglesias. Yeah. Sharing his experiences from a trip to India.
Exactly. And our mission, really, in this deep dive, is to explore that gap. The gap between what people might warn you about a place
The perceptions.
and what you actually find when you get there. We're pulling out the surprising cultural bits, some really unforgettable anecdotes, pretty wild stuff, actually, straight from his account.
Yeah, and we're going to cover quite a bit, like those unexpected similarities he found between cultures.
Right, and the unique ways people express themselves, he noticed.
Definitely the traffic. We've got to talk about the traffic. It sounds insane.
Oh, yeah, and the whole cow situation, the reverence there.
And that incident during his show, the bat incident.
Yes,
Yeah.
that whole chaotic performance story.
So it's a deep dive into the specific entertaining details he shared based purely on the sources we have.
Let's do it. So let's jump right in with that first big point, the expectations versus the reality he found. What sort of warnings did the source say he got before heading to India?
Well, the source describes quite a bit of apprehension. People were worried about communication,
Like, would people understand his English?
Exactly. Or even get his comedy, his stories.
Okay. And then there were the other kind of warnings, right? The sort of third world country concerns, as the source puts it.
Yeah, the classic travel fears, health and safety stuff. Don't drink the water parasites.
Right.
Don't eat the street food, especially the meat. Same reason, parasites.
Yeah.
And watch out for crime. Don't stay out too late. The usual suspects.
Okay, so those were the warnings. But the source immediately shows a huge contrast with what he actually found. Right?
Oh, completely. According to his account, the reality was, well, just totally different. He found out that more people speak English in India than in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico combined.
Wow. That alone flips the script on the communication worries.
Totally. And he mentioned, they have the internet, they know Bollywood, they know Hollywood. His take was they actually understand American culture way more than Americans understand Indian culture.
That's a really interesting observation. And the source highlights something else, those specific warnings he got. The crime, the water, the food. They sounded familiar to him.
Yeah, he explicitly said they sounded exactly like the warnings he had heard his whole life about Mexico.
Right, like, hold on, I've heard this track before. And that kind of leads into the next point. The source covers the unexpected things he found in common between Indian and Mexican people.
He apparently described the similarities as insane. The food was a big one. He compared naan bread to, like, a fluffier form of a tortilla.
Okay, I can kind of see that.
And he observed both cultures love chicken. Plus, he credited Indians with inventing spicy food, which, Mexicans definitely embrace.
Huh. Interesting claim. And the drinks.
Fanta. Apparently, according to him, it's the most popular drink in both places.
Fanta. Okay, that's unexpected.
Yeah. And he also described the people he met as just incredibly hardworking and humble.
So lots of common ground. Except maybe the cow thing?
Right. The source mentioned the only major food difference he noted was that reverence for cows in India versus, well, Mexico's love for barbecues.
It really shows how travel, just being there, can totally dismantle your ideas about a place, doesn't it? Finding connections you'd never expect.
Absolutely. The source provides a great example of that.
Speaking of seeing things firsthand, he made some really cool observations about cultural expression, things that stood out.
The namaste greeting, for one, he seemed quite taken with that.
How did he describe it in the source?
Looking at the person, hands together, like praying, a little bow. He called it endearing, nice and sweet. Just a nice way to say hello.
Yeah, that's a lovely description. But the head movement, that seemed to really capture his attention.
Oh, definitely. The side-to-side motion that many Indian people use when speaking.
His first thought, which is probably pretty common, was that they must all have sore necks.
Huh. Yeah, like they slept funny. But the source says he quickly figured out it wasn't involuntary. It was an expressive thing.
And it got more intense with excitement.
Yeah, he mentioned the hotel clerk recognizing him fluffy and the head movement getting much more vigorous.
He even noticed it stopped when they stopped talking. The head just kind of stayed wherever it was, mid-bobble.
Yeah, he joked about how complex it would be if someone stuttered.
But it points to a bigger idea, right? That we all have these unique, non-verbal ways to add meaning. Gestures, faces, movements.
Exactly. It's universal, but the forms are so diverse. And he compared it back to Mexico again.
Right, the Mexican head movement. Front to back, he said.
Yeah, but the key difference he pointed out on the source is the context.
How so?
Well, the Indian head movement, as he described it, is common, everyday expression. But the Mexican front to back, that's apparently reserved for when someone is really mad.
Okay. Like road rage level mad.
Pretty much. He joked you'd have to cut someone off in traffic to see it. So similar action, totally different meaning and frequency.
That's a great cultural nuance the source picked up on. Okay, speaking of traffic, let's dive into that. It sounds like a whole different world compared to driving here.
Oh, it's described as incredibly different. The source contrasts it sharply with the U.S. Here, he says, even something minor like a tire blowout can stop the entire freeway.
And why did he think that was, according to the source?
He attributed it to Americans being kind of fascinated by accidents, slowing down, looking, almost drawn to the potential death, as he put it.
Morbid curiosity, maybe?
Maybe. But the big contrast the source highlights is India. Despite way more chaos, way more vehicles, the traffic keeps moving.
So if there's an accident?
They just drive around it. Simple as that. Nothing stops the flow.
And the source gave a reason for that. It's not like they don't care, right?
No, he notes they see it, they're heartfelt, but the explanation provided in the source is there's just so much regular chaos, people absolutely have to get where they're going, work, whatever.
Find a way around, even the sidewalk.
Even the sidewalk, if necessary. It's just a different mindset, the source suggests. Relentless forward movement over rigid rules or stopping.
And the details are just wild. No turn signals.
According to the source, nope, the horn does all the work.
The horn is a language.
That's how the source describes it. Constant communication between drivers using honks and the density. He said, what's maybe 6 lanes here could fit 12 cars across there.
12 cars.
Wow. And at a stoplight, the source paints this picture. Cars, trucks, vans, motorcycles, people walking, kids, even cows, all waiting together.
Communicating with horns.
Communicating with horns. It's amazing.
There's an analogy the source used about ants.
Yeah, that really captures the mentality described. How ants encounter a rock, they split up, go around, climb over, maybe even dig under. That's the approach to traffic obstacle.
They'll find a way.
Yeah.
Anyway, that makes sense of it, kind of. And he had that taxi story, right? The airport run?
Oh, perfect example from the source. He was late, gave the driver a 50, and basically said, get me there fast. Do whatever you need to do.
And the driver took that literally.
Totally. High speeds, chaotic roads, then they hit a red light. Gabriel's bracing to stop. Driver just floors it, straight through the red light.
Whoa. What was his reaction?
Panic, basically, as described in the source. But the driver, cool as a cucumber, asked him why he looked scared.
And the justification for running the light?
Simple logic, according to the source. Didn't you see there was no one there? Followed by, essentially, you told me to do whatever it takes. You want to yell or you want to make your plane.
Pragmatic to the extreme. That perfectly illustrates that obstacle clearing idea from the source. The red light was just another rock for the ant to go around.
Exactly. Rules are secondary to the objective, it seems, based on that account.
So traffic doesn't stop for much, except the source mentions cows.
Ah, yes, the sacred cow. The source brings up the belief that cows are reincarnated people.
And that translates to how they're treated.
Big time. They're not eaten, obviously, and they get all the love and respect in the world. He saw it directly in traffic.
No, so.
A cow steps into the road. Everything stops. Complete halt. Patient waiting. No honking, no yelling, no trying to nudge it along.
He even said the cows looked cocky about it.
Yeah, like they knew they owned the road. But here's the really powerful contrast the source presents.
What's that?
Earlier, he mentioned driving past a dead body on the road, and traffic just flowed around it. It did not stop.
Wow. So dead body, keep moving, cow. Full stop.
Exactly. That juxtaposition straight from the source is really something to chew on. It makes you question, as he observed, what different cultures prioritize, what's considered sacred enough to literally stop that relentless flow.
Yeah, that's a striking image.
Yeah.
Definitely makes you think.
It really does. Challenges your assumptions.
Okay, so moving from sacred pauses to, well, utter chaos. Let's talk about his stand-up show experience.
Delhi.
Right. Which he said a little crazy.
Understatement of the year, based on the source's description. It apparently started going sideways during his opener set, Martina.
What happened?
3 guys in the front row were laughing really weirdly. He described the sound as like Klingons.
Klingons.
And Martina, instead of handling it, apparently just left the stage early to, quote, save them for Gabriel.
Oh, great. Thanks, Martina. So Gabriel comes out.
Crowd's good, initially. He starts his set, then immediately calls out the Klingons, asks where they're from.
Oh, yeah.
One guy says, "We are from Germany."
Ah. And how did the Indian crowd react to that, according to the source?
Badly. The source says the whole room got really weird, totally freaked out. They thought he was about to launch into jokes making fun of Germans.
Oh, tense.
Yeah, someone even yelled out from the audience, "Don't do it, don't do it," like a warning.
So he's trying to reassure them, saying, no, I'm not going to bash Germans.
Yeah.
And then the bat happens.
Right then. As he's setting up a joke that, ironically, involved Germans kicking something, bam, hit in the side of the head.
By a bat. A literal flying bat.
A fruit bat, yes. The source mentions there were apparently several bats flying around in the rafters of the venue. He just happened to step into its path.
Unbelievable. And the crowd's reaction to him getting hit by a bat?
According to the source, it was immediate and loud, and they connected it directly to the German situation, shouting stuff like, "They did it! They told you, don't do it!"
As if the Germans had sensed the bats on him.
Exactly. He joked, however evil you think Germans are, they don't control bats. But this whole sequence, the laughers, the German reveal, the crowd warning, the bat attack, all within the first 2 minutes of his set, according to the source.
Man, that would throw anyone off. How did the source say he recovered? He must have been rattled.
Yeah, the source describes him being nervous, losing the crowd initially, because everyone was freaked out by the bats and the general weirdness.
So what did he do?
He literally walked to the other side of the stage, kind of away from the bat zone and the German guys. Tried performing just for that section, feeling shaky, even stuttering a bit.
Yep.
Then he transitioned into a bit about drinking preferences across cultures. Mexicans and tequila, black people and Hennessy, white people and Jaeger. Standard stuff.
And then came the save.
He added a local reference, something he'd clearly picked up on his trip. He said, according to the source, here in India, you guys like Fanta.
Fanta again, and that worked.
Like magic, apparently. The source describes a huge reaction, a massive roar. People started singing some song. It completely reset the room, allowed him to reconnect. That specific local touch saved the show, based on his account.
Wow. The power of knowing your audience.
Yeah.
Right? And noticing the little things like Fanta.
Absolutely. But the German saga wasn't over yet, according to the source.
Oh, no. What now?
About 5 minutes later, the German guys were apparently offended they got left out of the drinks joke.
Seriously?
Seriously. The main guy came right up to the stage, yelling at Gabriel, repeatedly calling him fat man.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Source describes the guy as tall, like 6'4", yelling up at the stage. Refused to sit down, kept demanding to know what Germans drink.
How did Gabriel handle that after the bats and everything?
His frustration was building, the source says, especially being called fat man over and over after he'd lost weight. He could hear his crew backstage yelling, "Don't do it! Don't do it!" knowing he was about to snap.
So did he snap?
He leaned into the mic, according to the source, looked at the guy and said, "Well, something incredibly provocative. You want to know what you drink, damn it. Blood of Jews."
Oh, my goodness. What was the reaction in the room? The source must describe that.
Absolute dead silence from about 2,000 people. The source says you could just feel the collective shock. Pin drop silence.
I can only imagine. And the German guy, what did he do or say?
This might be the wildest part. According to the source, the German guy paused for a second, looked at him, and just said, "That's a good one."
No way. He thought it was funny.
Apparently so, or at least that was his response. Maybe as shocking as the joke itself, given everything leading up to it, just a truly bizarre end to that whole confrontation, as the source tells it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just, wow. So, okay, wrapping up the journey based on these sources, the aftermath, the trip home, any more weirdness?
Well, the source mentions a little twist of karma, maybe. Their connecting flight home got canceled.
Okay.
And they got rebooked on Lufthansa, the German airline.
Of course they did. He must have seen the irony.
Oh, yeah, he framed it exactly like that in his account. Karma.
Did anything happen on the Lufthansa flight?
He upgraded to business class, and as the flight attendant came around for drinks, his friend Martina, the opener, Martina apparently prompted him, asking the flight attendant if they had blood up.
On the German airline?
Yep. And then Martina ordered a Bloody Mary, just keeping the joke going, right there on Lufthansa.
Bold. Very bold as the source presents it. So he gets home, tells the story. How did people react?
According to the source, his girlfriend was kind of over it, jaded, didn't find it that funny anymore. Been there, heard that, maybe.
Okay.
But his son, who was 16 at the time, found the whole thing absolutely hysterical, especially the German part.
Why specifically the German part?
The son said the way Gabriel described them yelling sounded exactly like the three little pigs from the movie Shrek.
The ones with the German accents. Wie will Huff und Puff.
Those are the ones. And Gabriel apparently looked it up on YouTube later and confirmed, yeah, that's pretty much what they sounded like.
Huh. What a strange, perfect little final detail from the source.
Isn't it? And it kind of highlights how different people find humor or significance in different parts of the same story, you know?
Totally. So, looking back at this deep dive through the sources, we've really traced quite an arc from those initial warnings about India
Yeah, the preconceived notions.
to the surprising realities he actually encountered.
Mm.
We touched on unique cultural things, like the namaste greeting, the head movements.
So navigated that absolutely wild but functional traffic.
Encountered the whole sacred cow phenomenon.
And relived that bonkers show experience. The Klingon laughs, the bat, the Germans, the Fantasave, that final shocking joke.
It really underscores how travel, or even just engaging deeply with someone else's account like we did with these sources, can really challenge your assumptions.
For sure. It shows you unexpected connections, but also those really striking differences that make places unique. Offers new perspectives.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought for you, the listener, reflecting on this deep dive into these sources. Consider that really powerful image the source presented. That contrast between traffic flowing past a dead body.
Yet stopping completely respectfully for a cow.
What does that specific observation, drawn directly from the source material of this journey, prompt you to think about when it comes to different cultural values or priorities presented here?
It's definitely something that sticks with you, that image. A lot to unpack there.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive.